theater. Chaos reigned. The mission had gone sideways. Our protagonist, a CIA operative, found himself in a desperate scramble for survival. He had stumbled upon something sinister, something far beyond the scope of a routine operation. His pursuers were relentless. They wouldn't hesitate to kill him. He sprinted through the labyrinthine corridors, the echoes of gunfire close behind. His heart pounded in his chest, a drumbeat urging him onward. He reached his extraction point only to find it compromised. His escape route vanished. He was trapped, cornered like an animal. As his pursuers closed in, he made a fateful decision. He swallowed a cyanide pill. Better to die on his own terms than be captured. The world dissolved into darkness. When he woke, he was aboard a ship, adrift in a sea of questions. He had survived. But why? He awoke to a world shrouded in secrecy. A mysterious organization known only as Tenet had rescued him. They revealed the chilling truth behind his survival. The cyanide pill had been a test he had unknowingly passed. He was deemed worthy of a greater purpose. He was to become an operative for Tenet, their mission to prevent a catastrophic threat far exceeding the Cold War. This threat, they explained, was not from the past, but from the future. The very fabric of time, they revealed, was under attack. He learned of a phenomenon called inversion, a process that allowed objects and individuals to move backward through time. This revelation shook him to his core. Time, once a linear progression, was now a fluid, malleable force. He was tasked with mastering this power, to wield it against those who would unravel the very tapestry of existence. The future, they explained, was waging war on the present. At stake was the very survival of humanity, the enemy, a shadowy entity from a time yet to come. Their weapon, a terrifying device known as the algorithm. This algorithm, when assembled, could reverse the flow of entropy for the entire planet, effectively ending the world as we know it. Fragments of this algorithm were scattered throughout time. The enemy was pulling the strings from the future, manipulating events to ensure its assembly. His mission, and the mission of Tenet, was to find and secure these fragments, to prevent the algorithm from falling into the wrong hands. Time was the enemy's greatest weapon, and now it was also his. He had to think differently, to abandon conventional tactics, to fight a war where cause and effect were no longer bound by the constraints of linear time. The key to stopping the algorithm lay in understanding the enemy. Their intelligence pointed to Andrei Sator, a ruthless Russian oligarch with a finger on the pulse of the global arms trade. Sator, they believed, was the conduit, the present-day pawn in the future's deadly game. To get to Sator, they needed to infiltrate his inner circle. Their plan used Sator's wife, Kat, as an unwitting pawn. Kat, a woman trapped in a loveless, abusive marriage, became their target and their leverage. The protagonist, along with his enigmatic handler, Neil, embarked on a dangerous dance of deception. They moved through the world of high-stakes art auctions and clandestine meetings. Their objective to gain Sator's trust, to get close enough to strike. Every interaction was a calculated risk. Every word, a carefully constructed lie. The line between reality and illusion blurred as they navigated the treacherous currents of Sator's world. Section 5. The Art of Inversion. Turning back the hands of time. The deeper they delved into Sator's operation, the more apparent the stakes became. They witnessed firsthand the terrifying potential of inversion. Objects and individuals moving against the flow of time. It was a disorienting spectacle, a ballet of chaos where the impossible became reality. Bullets retraced their paths, shattering windows in reverse. Explosions imploded, drawing debris and destruction back to their source. Fights unfolded in reverse, the outcome predetermined, yet terrifyingly uncertain. The protagonist had to adapt, to train his mind and body to operate in this inverted reality. He learned to fight enemies whose movements defied logic, to shoot guns that recoiled before firing. Time was no longer a river, but a turbulent ocean. He was learning to navigate its treacherous currents, to bend its power to his will. Section 6. Kat's Ordeal. a pawn in Sator's twisted game. Their investigation led them to a horrifying discovery. Sator was dying, and in his desperation, he planned to take the world with him. Using the algorithm, he would trigger an apocalyptic event, ending all life on Earth. Kat was the key to his plan. He had hidden the final piece of the algorithm within her. Using a device called a turnstile, he could send her back in time, turning her into a living, breathing time bomb. The protagonist and Neil found themselves in a race against time. They had to save Kat, secure the final piece of the algorithm, and prevent Sator from unleashing his cataclysmic plan. Their mission became deeply personal. They were no longer just soldiers fighting an abstract enemy. They were protectors, bound by duty and compassion to shield Kat from Sator's madness. Section 7. The Temporal Pincer Movement, a symphony of forward and reverse time. The final confrontation with Sator was a masterful display of temporal warfare. The protagonist devised a daring plan, a two-pronged attack. One team would move forward in time, the other, inverted, would move backward. Their movements would be synchronized, their actions mirroring each other across the temporal divide. It was a high-stakes gamble, a ballet of chaos orchestrated across the fabric of time itself. One wrong move, one miscalculation, could have catastrophic consequences. The inverted team, moving backward through the battle, experienced time in reverse. They saw the aftermath before the cause. The dead resurrected, only to fall again. It was a disorienting, nightmarish experience, but they held their nerve, their actions guided by a plan orchestrated outside the flow of time itself. Section 8. The Final Showdown. A race against the ticking clock. The climax unfolded in a whirlwind of bullets and explosions. The protagonist and Neil, along with their inverted counterparts, converged on Sator's location, a remote facility where the algorithm was being assembled. They fought their way through hordes of Sator's men, their movements a blur of synchronized chaos. The very air crackled with the energy of temporal distortion. Time itself seemed to warp and twist around them. The protagonist confronted Sator in a final desperate struggle. The fate of the world hung in the balance. It was a fight outside of time, a clash between order and entropy. In the end, the protagonist prevailed, securing the algorithm and killing Sator, ending his threat once and for all. Section 9. The architect of his own destiny. The protagonist's true role revealed. With Sator defeated and the algorithm secured, a sense of relief washed over the protagonist. But his victory was short-lived. As the dust settled, a chilling truth was revealed. Neil, his loyal companion, his confidant, was not who he seemed. Neil removed his mask, revealing a familiar face. The protagonist's own. It was a revelation that shattered his understanding of time and his place within it. Neil was him, from a point in the future. He had been operating within a closed loop of time, his actions both a consequence and a cause of the events he had just experienced. He had been recruited by his future self. His entire journey had been orchestrated by the very person he was destined to become. The protagonist was both the architect and the instrument of his own destiny, a paradox woven into the fabric of time itself. Section 10. Guardians of Time, safeguarding the flow of existence. The revelation of his true nature left the protagonist shaken, but resolute. He had a responsibility to protect the sanctity of time, to ensure that the delicate balance of cause and effect remained undisturbed. He embraced his role as a silent guardian, a shepherd of time itself. He would continue to operate in the shadows, manipulating events, ensuring the timeline remained intact. His past, present, and future were now intertwined, a seamless loop of cause and effect. He carried the burden of knowledge, the weight of countless timelines resting upon his shoulders. The protagonist, once an ordinary man thrust into extraordinary circumstances, was now something more. He was a guardian of time, a silent protector of the delicate tapestry of existence. His fight to protect the timeline was far from over. It was a fight he would wage for eternity, a fight he was destined to win again and again.